Hello, my dear students. I hope you people are fine. So, let us continue with our chapter, that is typical configuration of computer system. In our previous video, we have seen what is RAM and what are the different types of RAM, isn't it? So, RAM, we have the different types like static RAM, dynamic random access memory. Again, the dynamic random access memory is being divided into synchronous random access memory and again one more is double data rate synchronous dynamic random access memory. So just we will refresh with the previous concepts within 2 minutes. So first one was the static memory. Static memory, it is a kind of a memory chip that has been present in the cache memory because of its high speed. Okay, so the static RAM, that is SRAM, you can see here in one of the slide. Yes, you can see here SRAM, it is actually a kind of memory that has been placed in the cache memory because of its high speed. Okay, and this SRAM, it is making use of the multiple transistors, almost 4 to 6 transistors it is making in order to construct one memory cell, and it is not using any capacitor. Okay, since it is not using any capacitor, it does not need any kind of constant refreshing. Therefore, this static RAM, it is more faster in order to data transfer between this microprocessor. Microprocessor is nothing but your CPU. So it is more faster whenever it is transferring the data between the CPU and the SRAM. SRAM, since there is no refreshing process, it is faster, and because of it is a faster kind of a memory, it is very expensive when you are comparing with the dynamic random access memory. Whereas the dynamic random access needs what? Continuous, it needs the refreshing process. Okay, and what the information in this SRAM will be supplied with the until it is been supplied with the power supply. That means it retains the information as long as the power supply is on. So that is nothing but the static memory. So again, we have discussed about the random access memory, isn't it? Dynamic random access memory. Dynamic random access memory, it is used in the main memory. Can you see this? It is used in the main memory is nothing but the RAM and the ROM. A part of the RAM is SRAM that has been placed outside the main memory. Okay, that is placed in the cache memory. So this dynamic random access memory, in order to make one memory cell, it is using the combination of both the transistors and capacitors. Because it is using the capacitors, we need the constantly to refresh this dynamic random access memory. Otherwise, capacitors will tend to lose whatever the contents it is holding. And capacitor is the one who is holding your data or the information in the form of bits, that is zeros and ones. So dynamic random access memory by itself, okay, automatically after every 1000 times per second, it will get refreshed by itself. Okay, because if it is because of this refreshing process, it is quite slow comparatively to the static random access memory whenever it is required to transfer the data between the DRAM and the processor. I hope you are able to understand. But it is quite less expensive when comparatively to the SRAM, and the accessing speed of this dynamic random access memory is 50 to 150 nanoseconds. Okay, then we have again the two types of dynamic random access memory, that is synchronous dynamic random access memory and the double data rate synchronous dynamic random access memory. In case of SDRAM, that is synchronous, I have already explained the term. What does the synchronous mean? Synchronous mean that your random access memory will be actually synchronized with the system clock signal. Can you see here there is a clock signal? This clock signal is actually associated within the microprocessor. This synchronous, it is there here only. Okay, this synchronous dynamic random access memory, it is actually completely synchronized with the clock signal. Only when your clock signal, at the rising edge of your clock signal, SDRAM will transfer the data, and the SDRAM knows when the next cycle, the clock signal will be high. Only when the clock signal will be high, SDRAM will transfer the data to the processor, and it keeps the data what next instruction that is required for the processor. Like for example, I have shown this part. This is what is rising edge. SDRAM will just forward the data. This is rising edge and this is the falling edge. That is non-DDR, means that is synchronous dynamic random access memory. Only at the time of rising edge you are able to transfer the data to the CPU. Now, I hope you can clearly understand now. Then next one what we had discussed was the double data rate random access memory. In case of double data rate random access memory, what happens, it is also again a memory chip, okay, but here double data rate random access memory will transfer the data both at the rising edge and the falling edge of the clock signal. You can see this image again. You can see here both at the falling edge as well as the rising edge of the data clock signal. The double data rate is transferring the data to the CPU. Because of its it is transferring both the times the data. The double data rate random access memory is quite faster when you are comparing to the that is the synchronous dynamic random access memory. Again, in case of double data rate, we have different types of that is DDR1, DDR2 and DDR3. Those are just the different types of double data rate synchronous dynamic random access memory. It all depends upon the capacity, what capacity your motherboard is using. Depending upon that, the DDR will be used onto your motherboard for the memory purpose. So I hope now you are clearly understanding where exactly SRAM, DRAM, okay, why they are being used. Now today in this video we need to discuss about the registers. As we have discussed, our internal memory, computer's internal memory consists of the registers, cache memory and the primary memory. So we have completed with the primary. We need to complete about the registers and the cache memory. So these registers are considered to be as the high speed temporary storage memory which are being located inside the CPU itself. Can you see the registers are being stored and in the CPU itself? Here you can clearly see, and they are to be considered as the high speed storage. I hope you can remember the levels of memory we have discussed. The fastest data transfer memory in the computers are register, then was the cache memory, then was your primary memory, then was your hard disk, then was your magnetic tape, isn't it? So the registers are to be considered as the first high speed temporary storage memory because they are within the CPU. So it will provide whatever the data, the instructions are needed by the CPU for the processing purpose. So the data transfer rate will be very fast when you comparatively to the other kind of cache or SDRAM, whatever, SRAM or something. Therefore, they are considered to be the high speed memory. So once the data has been loaded into the computer memory, usually what happens is CPU will actually seize for the data first in the cache memory, whether whatever the data or the instructions that are required for the CPU for the processing purpose, it will first look for the cache memory. If the data has been not found into the cache memory, again the CPU will look for the data or the instructions in the main memory. Okay, then main memory will transfer the data to the cache memory, again cache memory to the CPU. So when the data or the instruction reaches to the CPU, it is usually the register is the one who actually receives all the data and the instructions, and these registers will be working under the control of control unit. It will be working under the direction of the control unit, which will have the capacity to accept the data and the instructions. It has the capacity to store the instruction, and it will transfer all those data or the instructions to the ALU unit. This register will accept and it will store the data, and it will forward all those data, the instructions to the ALU unit for performing the arithmetic or logical or the comparison operations at a very high speed. It will transfer the data. Okay, then since this CPU is making use of these registers, okay, for the processing of data, the number of registers present in the CPU, okay, and the size of the each registers would directly affect the power and the speed of the CPU. So the more number of registers you have, okay, and the capacity of the more the capacity of the registers, obviously the processing speed will be high. If the processing speed of your system will be high, obviously your computer can execute more number of instructions in a per second. So this is all about the registers. Okay, so usually whatever the data transfer takes place from the main memory or through the cache, first actually it reaches to the register. Registers is the one who is actually internally working within the CPU. Hence we also say the registers to be as the working memory of the CPU. These registers are available only within CPU. Nowhere you can see the registers outside the CPU. Therefore they are also being considered as the working memory of the CPU. Okay, now moving on to the next important concept, that is the cache memory. Cache memory, we have already discussed this topic in the first POC, isn't it? So let us see in detail how exactly the cache memory works. Okay, so cache memory is a very high speed memory that is being placed between the RAM and the CPU. You can see it is being placed between the RAM and the CPU. So usually what kind of data is being stored in the cache memory is, it will store the information or the instructions that has been more oftenly used by the CPU, and it is a kind of again a temporary storage, and it makes the data available to the CPU at the faster rate. Okay, after the register, next fastest memory is our cache memory itself. So what kind of data is, whatever the data or the instructions that are being needed for the processing purpose, that kind of data and instructions will be stored into the cache memory, and it keeps the instructions always ready, and it will transfer the data at a very high speed. So because of this cache memory, it will increase the speed of the processing. So during processing, as I said, so the CPU will first actually checks for the cache memory for the required data. If it is not found, then it will see in the main memory, it looks for the RAM. So whenever the RAM will reply back with the data or the instruction, those data, the instruction has to pass through the cache, and the cache will forward the data at the faster rate to the CPU. That means whenever there is a data transfer between main memory to the cache, here the data transfer will be slow. Okay, but the data transfer between the cache to the CPU will be very fast. So I can show you this slide. Can you see here? The data transfer rate here will be slow, but here the data transfer will be very fast between the CPU and the cache memory. So usually this cache memory, it has been built into the processor. So here cache memory they are of three types. One is L1, L2 and the L3. So L1 will be always built in the CPU itself. L1 cache memory, it has been actually built in the CPU itself, and it is considered to be one of the fastest cache memory. Almost it will be having the speed of the microprocessor itself. So such fast the cache memory will be there, which has been built in it will be having internal built in the microprocessor itself. So however, the cache memory has been usually it is the roughly twice as fast as the random access memory. The data speed with the cache memory will be twice the fast as comparatively to this main memory or the random access memory. No matter whether it is L1, L2 or L3 cache memory, these cache memory are very quite expensive, but they are very smaller in size. That means very small capacity of the data it can hold. Usually the size of the cache memory will be in terms of 256 kilobytes up to 2 MB. 2 megabytes up to that data you will be having the cache memory. Now let us see the different types of cache memory. So the CPU has built-in cache memory called as the L1 and L2, wherein you can see it is apart from the CPU, but it is a separate cache memory chip, okay, on the motherboard. And we do also have the L3 cache memory. So L3 cache memory is also a separate memory chip which is brain apart from the CPU. Only the L1 is the cache memory which has been built in the microprocessor. So usually L3 will be coming under the high-end processor. So earlier microprocessors, earlier your motherboards and all, they had only L1 and L2. But nowadays, right from the Intel Core i7, the high-end processor were started coming with the that is L3 cache memory. Okay, otherwise initially we had only L1 and the L2. So let us see what exactly this L1 cache memory. It is very extremely fast, but it is very small and usually present within the processor itself. So what might be the size of this L1 cache memory is about 256 kilobytes of data it can hold. Around 256 kilobytes of data the L1 will be holding. But comparatively to L1, L2 and L3, L1 proves to be the fastest. Then what about the L2 cache memory? L2 cache memory, it is actually being placed outside the CPU on the separate chip. Usually it is also using the high speed system bus. Okay, to transfer the data between the L2 cache memory to the CPU, it is using the high speed system bus. So what exactly the system bus? System bus is nothing but our data bus, isn't it? So data bus is or the system bus is nothing but it is the parallel wires that are helping to have the data transfer between the memory to the processor. Our system bus actually depends upon the number of parallel wires. So it might be 16, it might be 32, it might be 64 or 128 parallel wires it might be there in the bus. So this L2 might be using the 128 lines of parallel wires. So therefore this L2 cache memory is using the high speed data transfer rate. That is the reason whatever the data transfer takes place, this is L2, whatever the data transfer takes between the cache memory and the CPU proves to be the fastest because they are using the high speed system bus. Okay, and what might be the size of this L2 cache memory? Means it is maybe available up to 6 MB. Okay, but nowadays as there is upgradation, more than 6 MB also cache memory might be available. So up to 6 MB you will be able to have the L2 cache memory. Then next, what is the L3 cache memory? Actually L3 cache memory, it is a kind of a specialized memory that is used to improve the performance of L1 and L2. So L3 is acting to improve the performance of this L1 cache memory and the L2 cache memory. Can you see, most fastest is L1, again little bit fast is the L2, and the less fast among the cache memory, less fast is about the L3. So this is quite slower when you are comparing to the L1 and L2, but it is quite faster when you comparatively to the speed of the RAM. That means double the speed of the RAM you will be having in in the level 3 cache memory. You can see it is slow here, but it is less fast, it is faster, and this one L1 is more faster. So usually L3 may come up to 12 MB, up to 12 MB data you will be having the L3 cache memory. So therefore, whether it is L1, L2 or L3 cache memory, they usually store the most recent executable instructions or the next instructions or the next possible instructions that are being needed for the processing purpose by the CPU. So these were all the points about the cache memory. Okay students, I hope now you are able to clearly make out what is the main memory, that is what is the primary memory, what is the registers, and what are the cache memory. It is very important from your exam point of view. Okay, so watch the video, solve the assignment, take care of yourself students. Thank you.